Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, my name is Matt and we are a family from Fridley, Minnesota, and we've been using RV Share and Outdoorsy for the last 5 years to rent out our travel trailers. And I have a little series on my channel called Is It Worth It? Basically, it's where we discuss the pros and cons of renting out your travel trailers as a side hustle. I did a mid-season update video a few months ago. I'll put a link to that video up in the corner here. Try not to repeat myself too much in this video. In the prior one, we talked about spreadsheets, how we track bad renters, and some of the differences between RV Share and Outdoorsy. In this video, we're going to cover repairs, wear and tear, going to talk about insurance a little bit, and I'll share with you our year-end numbers, including what our net profits were for 2023. This year, our rental fleet consisted of 2 travel trailers, our 2020 Grand Design 2400 BH. That is a 29-foot family bunkhouse, and then a 2021 Flagstaff 21DS. That's a 22-foot couples camper. Now that Grand Design we bought brand new back in 2020 and was our primary rig for personal use for the first couple of years. But now our kids are a bit older and they don't really come on camping trips with us anymore, so we've switched over to using the Flagstaff as our primary personal camper. Now the rental season in Minnesota is relatively short. It's about 6 months from April through October, and we do block off at least 1 to 2 weekends a month for the Flagstaff for personal use. Let's start out by talking about everyone's number one concern when it comes to renting out their RV, and that's excessive wear and tear or damage. I think we've been incredibly lucky or blessed in the 5 years we've been doing this. I can count on one hand how many times we've actually had to go after somebody's security deposit for damage. In fact, this last year, we only had to do that once. And that was kind of an odd scenario. Basically, somebody backed our camper up into our house and damaged our ladder. Now, normally when somebody returns their RV, I always have them just park in the street and then I maneuver it into the driveway where I want it to be. I never have them actually back it into the driveway when they're done. This is one of those rare circumstances where we actually weren't going to be here when they wanted to do the drop off, and we do allow that from time to time, and most customers are okay with that. And this was a deal where I'm pretty sure he dropped the camper off by himself, didn't have a spotter. I don't know if he was using the backup camera or not, but just backed it up a few inches too far and yeah, bent our ladder. But he was really cool about it. It was only about $375 for the replacement part, and it was not that big of a deal. If you're in the rental business, there's always going to be a few times during the rental season where a renter brings the camper back and it's not exactly in the same condition as they took it out, and you're kind of on the fence of whether you should charge them or not. Our thinking is, if it's pretty minor, inexpensive, and it wasn't caused by the renter being super careless, a lot of times we'll just chalk it up as cost of doing business. You know, minor things like we had a renter put away the camping chairs when they were wet, and by the time they got them home and they were out, they had mold on them. You know, we had to replace 2 of the chairs. It really was only $40 because we don't put a lot of money into the chairs, just knowing that they're going to get used a lot. That case, we didn't charge them. Or we had a renter that had some sparks from the fire pit come out and put some burn holes in the rug. Light scratches from hitting a tree branch, scratches that I can easily buff out. Things like that we don't get too worried about. Our thinking is, you know what, I'd rather have that 5-star review, that happy customer, than recouping $40 here and there. And overall it hasn't really hurt our bottom line, and we do have a lot of repeat customers and a solid steady 5-star review. I do follow some RV rental Facebook groups, and there are some people that are really hardcore black and white with this, that they will charge for anything and everything that they can. And I don't know, I just wouldn't feel good about that. I know if I was renting an RV and it came back with a little minor imperfection, I'd be pretty pissed if I got charged for that. At the end of the day, maybe we're just too nice, but I feel good about how we do our business, and so far it's worked out for us. All right, I guess we get a guest appearance from Audrey the RV dog. Mom is not home and she needs a lap to sit in, so I guess I'll have to do. Talking about wear and tear, our Grand Design is going on its 4th year of rentals now, so we are starting to notice that catch up with it a little bit. I didn't track miles the first couple of years, but I'm estimating that it has about 30,000 miles on it, so we are starting to notice some things. That being said, I've been really impressed with the overall quality of our Grand Design camper, but here are some of the things that we've had to do with it. First of all, I have to replace another awning support arm. This is the third support arm I've had to replace, and they're warranted for about a year, and it seems like they last about 13 months. So it's always been out of pocket every time I've had to replace one. I don't know if it's just a bad design or the awning's just too big for it, but with time, it just gets weaker and weaker and just won't support that side of the awning. And in fact, if you don't replace it, it starts to bend into the housing and damages that too. I follow some 2400 owner groups on Facebook, and another common problem with these campers is the front LED lights. They have this clear rubber protective coating over the lights, and that just degrades and falls apart with time. So this last summer I did have to replace the LED lights. It's actually pretty cheap and pretty easy to do. I'm working on a how-to video on that that'll be coming out soon. And with time, of course, it's developed a lot of light scratches, especially on the sides and on the top. So I went out and bought a nice buffer, and with a little bit of work, I got it looking a lot better. I was actually really surprised. There were some scratches that I thought for sure would not come out, but I probably got 90 to 95% of all the scratches out, and it really does look a lot better. And on the inside, like most campers, you know, the cabinets, the drawers, they just have this light veneer sticker over the exterior. So, you know, the nicks and the scratches have kind of built up. But I did find a matching paint that you can buy on Amazon. I'll link that in the description. So with a little bit of touch up, I've taken care of most of those. There's been a couple, like the bottom of the bathroom drawer where it's peeled off a little bit, but I was able to glue that down. We also had to fix our folding dinette table. There was a little metal bracket that broke. Good news is my son took up welding this last year and he's able to fix that free of charge. That was kind of nice. You know, things break in an RV whether you rent them or not, but it's fair to say that renting does accelerate those issues. But overall, I think we've been able to keep on top of things, and really at the end of the day, our camper still is in pretty nice shape. That being said, we are debating on whether we want to sell it now while it's still in pretty good shape and has good value, or whether we want to roll the dice and keep going and hoping nothing big happens and still get some more rental income out of it. Next topic to talk about is insurance, and we get a lot of questions about insurance. So you probably already know that insurance is provided for the renters through the platform. You set the deductible, ours is $1,500, and then the renter can choose between the different insurance packages that the platform has to offer. Although you do have the choice to set a minimum package that the renter gets. Damage claims are done right through the platform, but they only cover accident-related issues. Things like interior damage, awnings, that kind of thing comes out of the security deposit. That's why it's important to have a relatively high security deposit at the very beginning. I've heard some people say that one rule of thumb for the security deposit is to have it high enough to cover the replacement cost of a new awning. As far as personal insurance goes, we used to use the same company that covered our cars in our house. We had Progressive and then Liberty Mutual for a few years, but last year we switched to Roamly, and we did that for a couple different reasons. First of all, they have competitive pricing, and it's a company that specializes in insuring RVs. So you can get custom plans that specifically cover things like roof damage, pest damage, roadside assistance, replacement costs for personal effects that get damaged or stolen on your trip. They even offer winter storage covers and insurance for full-timers. Roamly advertises that you can save up to 35% by going with them. For us, the cost was pretty close to what we had before, but that's because we added a couple extra packages with Roamly. So at the end of the day, I think we got a lot better insurance than what we had before. But just having that peace of mind, knowing that you have specialized RV coverage and that you don't have to worry about the whole rental thing, that's invaluable. I have a link in the description below where you can go to get a free quote. It's quick, it's simple, and if you use the link, it does help support our channel. So if you do, thank you. Let's wrap up talking numbers, starting with miles. How many miles went on our rigs in the 2023 season? Our Imagine ended up with 9,060 and our Flagstaff 4,582. The average trip mileage was 696 for the Imagine, and our Flagstaff was only 416. Our Flagstaff ended up getting a lot of rentals that were in-state or, you know, over to Wisconsin, where the Imagine ended up on some longer outstate trips. For our 6-month rental season, our Flagstaff only rented out for 47 nights versus 74 for the Grand Design. And it's a lot less for a couple different reasons. Number one, obviously we use it a lot ourselves, so it's off the market more. And then also because it's new to our fleet, we don't have a lot of repeat customers like the Imagine has. And being that it started out new to the market with 0 reviews, I've talked about that in the past. You know, once you start getting good reviews, that gets the ball rolling. People really like to rent from somebody who has a history of doing a good job. So the Flagstaff was kind of an unknown commodity in the market, so it just was off to a slower start. So out of the 47 days for the Flagstaff, that averaged out to 7.8 days a month. 14 of those days were on Outdoorsy, and RV Share was 33 nights. We charged $135 a night for the Flagstaff, and after the rental platforms took away their percentage, we netted $5,073, which averaged $845 a month or $107 a night. That rig was out on a rental. Like I said, our Grand Design was rented out for 74 nights. That averaged out to 12 nights a month. We charged $150 a night for that rig, and that brought us in a total of $8,393. That's $1,390 a month or $113 a night. That RV was out on a rental. As far as how much it costs just to own these RV, obviously we do have payments and insurance to cover year round, even though our rental season is only 6 months long. Right or wrong, we did finance nearly the entire purchase of each RV with the mindset that rentals were going to be covering everything anyways. And also paying cash for a new RV was really never part of our budget. So our Flagstaff costs us approximately $3,900 a year in payments and insurance. So with the $5,073 we brought in, our rig's costs were covered with an additional $1,173 of income. Our Grand Design costs us approximately $3,349 a year in payments and insurance. And with the $8,393 we brought in, that RV's costs were covered with an additional $5,045 of extra income. And of course, you can't forget about all the extra expenses that go along with owning and renting out your RV. Things in that category would include, replacing any broken or worn out gear like the camping chairs I mentioned, hoses, things like that. You have maintenance, you have cleaning supplies, car wash soap, degreaser, that buffer I mentioned, grease for the bearings, that kind of thing. We also don't charge our renters for propane. I mean, the propane alone costs $200 for the season. Tires are another wear item that has to be considered. But all in all, for 2023, we only spent $700 in expenses, and I didn't think that was too bad. I thought it would be a lot higher. So at the end of the day, our grand total net profit for renting out both RVs for 6 months was $5,518. So there are 2 ways of looking at renting out your RVs. One is just a way of using the rental money as a way to cover the cost of owning an RV. And that was kind of our mindset when we started doing this back in 2019. And that was our loose goal for the Flagstaff for this year. And it worked out for that rig. You can also look at RV rental as a side job for the sole purpose of bringing in some extra money. And that was our goal with the Grand Design this year. However, things get a little bit more complicated when you're doing this as a side job, and there's things you need to factor in like depreciation. And I'm not going to get into depreciation a whole lot in this video other than to say that for tax purposes, our accountant suggested that we do the 10-year double declining method. And that works out nice because it really limits the amount of tax that you have to pay in those first 10 years. But keep in mind that when you do sell in the future, there may be some capital gains tax that you have to pay. Definitely not my area of expertise, so I'd suggest you talk to an accountant if you really need to know the detail on how all that works. So at the end of the day, the big question always is it worth it? I mean, sure, there's a lot of work that goes into this. There's the prepping, the washing, the fixing little things here and there, the handoff, the returns, the communication with the renters. And yeah, there is some risk involved. But you are protected by using the platforms, having a good high security deposit, and having good RV specific insurance like Roamly gives you some peace of mind. The bottom line is by doing this, it's allowed us to have the benefits of having 2 really nice RVs with zero cost. And the extra income it provided more than made up for the man hours we put into it. So I would say for 2023, renting out RVs has definitely been worth it. That wraps up our 2023 update. Once again, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.